You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Hello and welcome into the latest episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill. Fellas, what's going on?
It's just a nice, pleasant early autumn Thursday afternoon in New York City. I sound like AI trying to explain reality right now. Yeah, but I don't got much to say. I mean, Sam's the one who went viral on X today.
What?
So,
what happened there, Sam?
Well, a lot is happening in our fair city of New York. I don't know if you've read the papers this morning.
Please
Tyler.
tell me that I have read, and again, as is my long-standing policy on this show, the rest of us don't care about your mayor as much as New Yorkers think we all care about your mayor. But this is a very interesting piece, obviously. I was hoping that you would have gone viral for being the real-life Mr. Autumn Man, as we say every year. This year, of course, we changed your nickname to the Autumnal Creep, but you've always been Mr. Autumn Man from The Onion for the last several years. But now, like, it's going to be Eric Adams. I was hoping that you just like resplendent beard, a nice Dunkin' coffee, a flannel button down. Although you're not wearing a flannel button down, you got a polo on today. But that was my hope. But I'm gathering that's not why you went.
Yeah, it needs to be like 5 to 10 degrees cooler before I break out the cardigan.
Okay,
I have thought about it.
Okay.
I know where it is in my apartment. I am ready to wear it.
It's on deck, if you will.
It's on deck. That is
Right.
a good way of putting it on this baseball podcast. But speaking of a baseball podcast, it's a very silly tweet. I'm not getting too political with this statement, but a few years ago, a reporter here in New York wore a Brooklyn Dodgers hat. Eric Adams bumped into him and said, "In New York City, we don't wear Red Sox gear," thinking it was a Red Sox hat. I think this was 2022. And with everything that was going down yesterday, my mind went to, all the moments with Eric Adams as mayor, and that being what my day job is, that's what came to mind. So I quote tweeted the original tweet about the guy in the Dodgers hat.
I just saw the tweet, and that is amazing.
So
Ridiculous.
I don't think you can get indicted for not knowing ball, but who knows? Maybe there are more indictments to come.
There's always a one tweet that get like one retweet that really like kicks off the fire. Was there some person that retweeted it that you're like, oh no, this is gonna go places now?
Honestly, I went to bed and there were like 5 likes on it.
Okay, right.
And then I woke up and it had exploded. So I have no idea.
The only time that I ever went like even sort of viral, I posted something when I was in Tokyo about how good Japanese convenience store fried chicken is. And somehow you Darfish came across it and retweeted it. And then I literally a few weeks later, I got it blew up. A few weeks later, I got an email from the CEO of the convenience store chain asking me if I was still in Tokyo and would like to come to their corporate offices for a tour. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing that has ever happened to me. And I'm so bummed that I can't take advantage of it. So I never got to take a tour of the Lawson convenience store / fried chicken palace that I assume exists. But Eric Adams they should add that on to his charges, not knowing ball. Also looking at a blue hat, yeah. Although I guess that would have been in the City Connect. Still, the City Connect Red Sox hat doesn't look anything like a Brooklyn Dodgers hat, so even that excuse is out the window. You can't look at a Dodger blue hat with a B on it and think, oh, we're rocking that Red Sox hat. What's wrong with you? Come on. Ridiculous.
Especially because he was the former borough president of Brooklyn. There are many jokes that we could insert here about him and Brooklyn and whether he lives there or not. But we won't do that because we are a baseball podcast, and we will share that more on our Patreon. Which the link to that can be found directly in my Venmo.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you guys. Well, let's dive into our topics for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. We got a lot coming up for you on this week's episode. Before we talk amongst the three of us, and then take a trip down via the internet to Birmingham. You can get in touch with us, of course, podcast at milb.com. You can follow these fellas on Twitter, which I refuse to call by its other name, at Ben's Biz and at Sam Dykstra MILB. And podcast at milb.com is where you can hit us up with all of your off-season questions, stuff as it pertains to the postseason or new identities. We've obviously covered some alternate identity stuff over the last few weeks, and we do already have some rebrands and redesigns that we've announced or been able to discuss or are coming our way. But before we dive into some of those off-field things similar to the alternate identities that we discussed last week, we got to talk some on-field stuff. The minor league playoffs still underway, but we have more champions to crown and already have crowned. We've got champs in the Eastern League. The Erie Seawolves, Tigers affiliate, just is it's the Tigers mode right now to just be surging toward October. The Seawolves capturing the Eastern League title, defeating the Somerset Patriots 2-0. The Birmingham Barons, who we will hear from here shortly, taking out the Montgomery Biscuits 2-0 in that best of three, and the Arkansas Travelers at the AA level outlasting the Midland Rockhounds 2-1 in the best of three series. Another win for the Mariners system. Sam, your thoughts on the postseason? We talked a little bit about the single A and high A championships, but double A, I mean, obviously some extremely good talent across these three series and leagues. What stood out?
Yeah, I mean, a few things that I just want to point out real quick. Erie, we had some folks on the podcast last year to talk about the Seawolves winning an Eastern League title and how much that meant to the city last year just for winning one. Now they go back to back.
Yeah, after not winning any from 1995 through 2022.
Exactly. And how it seemed like for a time there wasn't going to be minor league baseball in Erie at all. And that team worked really hard and the community worked really hard to make sure that stayed. And now they're being richly rewarded with a Tiger system that is really good. And there's more coming. I mean, Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal, those guys haven't made their AA debuts yet. Those are coming likely in 2025. So the potential for a three-peat, it's there in Erie. That's also the Tigers' second minor league championship. They also won in the Florida Complex League. So they are building things level by level in the Detroit system. That's really promising. There was another system that repeated as champions, and that's in Arkansas. Modesto, who we talked about before, got Seattle its first minor league championship of the year. Arkansas adds another one. So you have the Tigers and the Mariners, each with 2 titles apiece this year. Both have really deep systems, which I think is promising. And the Tigers added a decent amount at the deadline, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? Like they added pieces at the deadline, or minor league pieces at the deadline, and were sellers, and now they're going to probably win a wild card spot. I feel comfortable saying that. We'll see what happens the rest of the week, but yeah. And the Mariners, I know they've kind of fallen short at the major league level this year, but you look at who's coming up through that system: Cole Young, Colt Emerson, Harry Ford. There's a deep system happening there in Seattle too, and they're building something at least sustainable. It feels like they have to supplement that hopefully this offseason and push themselves back into the postseason. But more help is coming on the Seattle side as well. And the Birmingham series, just to highlight that real quick, we're going to get into this a lot in a couple minutes here, so I don't want to dive too deep. But what stood out to me there are two things. One is the White Sox this year. We're talking about them, a really difficult year at the major league level, of course. As we're speaking now, they haven't set the record for most major league losses in a season, but they are in the cusp of doing so. So it's been a tough time on the South side. Getting a AA team that knows how to win, that's at least hopeful. And you look at guys who have come through that team this year: Edgar Caro, not with the team right now, but Noah Schultz, potential ace for the Southsiders. That's valuable experience for those guys. Also, I think that was an upset. Birmingham beating Montgomery. That Montgomery team was as deep a AA lineup as I've seen in a long time. And for them to beat that Montgomery team the way that they did is not only huge just for the White Sox system, but it's kind of cool. I mean, it shows how unpredictable the minor league playoffs really are.
Not to pile on White Sox fans, and I'm sorry, but I had to go look at what the record actually was as of today. It's 38-120. The expected win-loss right now for the White Sox is 45-113. So they are 7 games worse than their expected win-loss record based on runs scored and runs allowed. They've also only scored 486 runs as a team this year, which is 105 runs fewer than the next smallest amount in the big leagues this season. I'm sorry, White Sox fans, but at least you know that there's like a little bit of hope coming, potentially.
Yeah, and they can sweep their final series, still tie the Mets for most losses of all time, but have a
Right.
better winning percentage because those 62 Mets win 40 and 120. White Sox sweep, they'll be 43 and 120. So they'd be much better.
Exactly. That's
Or 43. No. If they sweep, wait.
42.
42.
42.
I'm working on it. Yeah. And just an extra win for doing good at the end of the season.
We can hand out one. It's not as though it's going to put much of a dent in that 53 and a half game deficit they have in the division. 46 games in the wild card. All right. Anyway, sorry, White Sox fans. We're not piling on. Congrats to Birmingham. And we are going to hear from the Birmingham Barons coming up here shortly. The last level then to crown its champion is sort of a third of the way through crowning champions, and that is AAA, where the Sugarland Space Cowboys are on to the AAA championship game, which will be this Saturday. The Space Cowboys sweeping the Reno Aces, and kind of a switch of what you might expect going into this championship series. Sugarland and Reno playing as the two half-season champions. That is new in AAA this year. We used to do division champions through the entirety of the season and wild cards and all that stuff. Now it is just a half-season championship. It doesn't matter which division you're in. You move on if you got the best record. Sugarland won the first half in the PCL. Reno won the second half. Ordinarily, you think, all right, second half champ is playing with a little bit more momentum, potentially more talent, etc. But Sugarland sweeps that series. Omaha and Columbus on the other side in the International League. Omaha won the first half. Columbus won the second half. Columbus won game one. Omaha won last night in game two. We are recording on Thursday, September 26th. Winner of tonight's decisive game three will move on to Vegas coming up on Saturday. Sam, this is a unique and different feeling AAA postseason this year, obviously, than what we have experienced through all of our careers up to this point.
Yeah, and you brought up how different it is without divisions, and Ben and I were kind of lamenting the loss of the Governor's Cup and how it remains in Columbus.
Yeah, it's still in Columbus.
It's still in Columbus. The actual physical cup is still in Columbus. But Tyler, you were mentioning specifically about the Pacific Coast League and how Sugarland won the first half, and Reno and Sugarland actually had the exact same record in the second half. So Reno was going to get in anyways because Sugarland had a postseason berth from the first half. But you look at Sugarland's record this year, it was 93-56 as a team for the entire summer. That's 11 and a half games better than anybody else in the PCL. I know the Astros don't have a particularly loaded system, but they continually do this where they get guys to the cusp of the majors and then they develop them well in the majors too. So you look at, guys who have come through that system in recent years, guys like Jeremy Pena, Hunter Brown, like guys who have been knocking on the door in that way. I really like Jacob Melton, who got hurt in that game 2 win, but I think he could be a power speed threat. He's a really good defender. Bryce Matthews, who Tyler, you and I have talked about, he's quickly moved up through the system, starting at the year at high A, now at AAA. He could be another power speed guy for Houston. But I just like that even with all this change, and yes, it's only a 3-game series and anything could have happened. The fact that Sugarland, which had a .624 winning percentage in the PCL, is the one representing the Pacific Coast League in Vegas on Saturday. There's some justification there. It feels like the system has worked in this case. It's not always going to. You could have put Sugarland against Albuquerque, who went 59-92, and there's a chance Albuquerque wins 2 out of 3 games, right? That's just baseball. But the fact that they didn't, it's Sugarland going on. That feels really cool. And then Columbus, Omaha, we're still waiting on the results of that. Who's going to represent the IL side? Kansas City, obviously the Royals themselves are fighting for a postseason spot. They have a lot of names you might recognize if you've been following that system for a long time. Drew Waters, Nick Pratto, Tyler Gentry has a rocket of an arm in the outfield. He's gotten a little bit of major league time this year. They have some interesting arms. Eric Sarantola could be a really good bullpen arm for them down the stretch. And then with Columbus, they got a big addition with Chase DeLauder coming back in the Guardian system. He's battled leg injuries throughout his very young career so far, including, I believe it was hamstring, the most recent one. But they got him back to DH just in time for the IL run. So he would be the biggest name. to play Saturday in Vegas if it comes to that. But that Kansas City team is pretty deep, and they can, outlast whatever Columbus is going to throw their way as well.
So, AAA title game coming up on Saturday evening on MLB Network, 7 o'clock local time, start time for that. So 10 o'clock out on the East Coast for those folks like Sam Dykstra, who I will assume is going to be tuned in and just like texting furiously about like dumb things that I say on TV.
Can I just say I cleared my schedule for this?
What a guy.
For you and Jim Callis. I was going to go see Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis on Saturday.
Ooh.
And I changed my ticket to tonight.
What a
so
guy.
I could make sure I was there to watch you guys.
What a guy. Ben's got better things to do with his life. He's got a kid and, he'll be asleep by 10, right?
Some days I'm asleep by 10, which is really a new phenomenon for me. But
yeah, I feel like with a kid, I'd be in bed by like 7:30.
It really depends. Sometimes I last all the way past midnight. It really depends. And I surprise myself based on how early I go to bed some days and then how late I stay up others. I'm just a mysterious guy. I can't predict myself, but it makes life more interesting.
I'm just going to hold my laptop up outside Ben's window. And I'll give you a cue just to yell his name during the broadcast.
Hi, Ben!
That's how we'll broadcast.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, on Saturday night, I'll be watching the AAA championship.
Sure, the MLB Network people would be thrilled to be like, hi, Ben! Tune in to me and Ben and Sam on the Show Before the Show podcast. Oh, 2 pitches outside. All right, you guys. Well, we are headed toward end of season award recognition and such coming up on Monday. Of course, the MILB award show on MLB Network as well. We talked a little bit with Ben last week about alternate identities that will be voted on by fans to crown the best alternate identity in 2024 in the minor leagues. We also have pitching and hitting prospect of the year finalists. Sam, guide us through.
Yeah, this one isn't for public vote, unfortunately. So you have to tune in Monday at 9 p.m. on MLB Network to find out who won. But just to run through the finalists real quick. On the hitting side, it's Christian Campbell, the second base / third base / shortstop / outfield prospect for the Red Sox. Had an incredible year, 20 home runs, 24 stolen bases. Next up, behind him is Davison De Los Santos, who led the minor leagues with 40 home runs, the only one to hit 40 home runs this year in the minors. He's our second candidate for hitting prospect of the year. And then third, it's Bryce Eldridge, who was a first-round pick of the Giants last year, played at all 4 full season levels, ended the year with a .289 batting average, .372 on base, .513 slugging, and had 23 home runs with 27 doubles and 2 triples. Played 116 games. He's going to the Arizona Fall League. We haven't talked about that, but we have plenty of time to talk about the AFL before that begins. Tune in next week. I'm sure we'll dive more into AFL rosters. So those are the hitting prospect of the year candidates. On the pitching side, we have Caden Dana, who pitched all year at AA. He actually made a brief appearance at the end of the year at with the Angels in the major leagues, but went really deep, 135 2/3 innings at just 20 years old at AA, which is really impressive. Had a 2.52 ERA, 147 strikeouts in those 135 2/3 innings. Coming in behind him was Quinn Matthews, who struck out 202 batters across 26 starts. Much like Bryce Eldridge, a draft pick from last year. Many people may remember him from his Stanford days. Pitched at all 4 full season levels in the Cardinals system for Quinn Matthews. And then the third and final finalist is another 2024 draft pick, Travis Sakura of the Nationals, who just jumped onto our top 100 recently in our most recent update. A 2.33 ERA, 129 strikeouts against only 27 walks in 85 1/3 innings for single A Fredericksburg. Really good fastball, really good splitter. I like the slider as well. He's got 3 at least above average pitches. You could go plus on the splitter and the fastball too. A lot to like from Travis Sakura. So tune in on Monday to find out amongst those 6 finalists, which 2 will be honored.
And that'll do it for our opening segment on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. But we are headed to Birmingham. Ben, give us a sneak peek of what's ahead.
Yeah, well, as Sam mentioned, the Birmingham Barons are the Southern League champions of the 2024 season. So we've got the longtime broadcaster for the Barons, the voice of Birmingham, Curt Bloom, to tell us about the championship win and just this season in Birmingham in general, because it was a good one. The Birmingham Barons are the champions of the Southern League, and Curt Bloom is the broadcaster for the Southern League champion, Birmingham Barons. He's here with us now to talk about that championship win and all things Birmingham Barons baseball. Curt, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. And do me a favor so I can hear you again. Can you introduce us as the Southern League champs? Because that sounds pretty good. That's a great way to get started.
Unless you say it 3 times, Ben. I think you got
exactly.
Yeah, I got it in there. I got it in there twice.
Yeah.
Well, the Barons just won the Southern League championship and are now the Southern League champions. What was it like to call a championship winning game? I mean, you've had these experiences before, but what is it like for a broadcaster when the game, and this was a tense game. They're all tense when a championship's on the line, but this was a particularly tense game. How did it build for you? And, how do you stay steady on the mic in those situations?
This is my 5th, and each one is going to be unique, but there's never been a walk-off. I mean, this is like Bill Mazeroski stuff in the big leagues, and everyone knew that this game, particularly in game 2 of the series, we had punched them in the face in game 1, but we knew that this one would be very, very close, very, very tight. We scratched across a run in the first inning, bottom of the first inning. So it's 1-0, and then you just turn it over to your pitching, and you just hope. You're counting the outs out. There's 3 left. There's 3 more. There's 3 more. There's 3 more. And you're getting closer and go, God, could we win this thing 1-0? A walk-off game to end a series 1-0? I mean, that's not very common. And to even add more drama, Montgomery scores a run in the top half of the 9th. We're 1 out away, 1 strike away from winning our first championship in 11 years in a team that should not have been there at all. Should not have gotten by Tennessee, should not have gotten by Montgomery. And it's certainly absolute, no doubt, big leaguer Chandler Simpson scorches a double with a guy on base and ties the game at 1. And you talk about the fans and the reaction. I mean, it was just everything was taken out of us, and everyone's shoulders slumped, and you're just like, oh no, our dream. And you're thinking, we're going to have to play tomorrow. Ben's aware of the fact that the hurricane was due to come through here, not a direct hit, but just enough of it. And we were going to play the next day at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and I don't like our chances. Anyways, we got a little bit of noise in the bottom of the 9th, but stranded. And then in the 10th inning, you're hoping things go your way. And when you didn't advance that ghost runner, remember the ghost runner, we didn't advance him, but then a wild pitch did. And that changed the complexion. They would walk to load the bases, a guy on a 2-2. And I forgot, I had to go back and watch it. I didn't realize that Wilfred Veras was intentionally walked with a 2-2 count. And they wanted to pitch to DJ Gladney, right on right, same thing. It's 0-2, and and again, you talk about capturing the moment. Look, I've done this before, and I've actually had a friend of mine who called a Stanley Cup final for I'm not going to tell you what team it was, but he asked me, how do you get these calls? And it's got to be spontaneous. And I remember just laser focused on the pitch. Next thing you know, boom, it just scorched up the middle. And the things that come out of your mouth. And I knew, guys, when you make that call, you have to make sure you're just not screaming nonsense. You've got to talk about it went through, it was a base hit. And I wanted to make sure that I let everyone knew who scored. You go back and listen to it, and it says Gladney up the middle through, that's a base hit. And, the Barons win, blah, 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 blah. Goosenberg will score from third. So use your experience and make sure you cover all of it. I didn't want it to be people guessing what happened. How did it happen? So that was my focus, to make sure that I really connected all the dots and didn't leave anything out.
And with a few days of reflection and things settling down at least a little bit, I would hope, between all the excitement on the field, in the clubhouse afterwards, in the locker room, how are you going to remember this particular Barons team? Because we talked about this earlier in the podcast, it comes at an interesting time in the White Sox system with so much more emphasis now on the minor leagues than there is certainly in the majors, at least internally. So to get a title on the board is huge, but then you look at the roster, it's kind of devoid of big names outside of Noah Schultz, and yet those are the guys walking away with a ring. So, with a little bit of separation, how are you going to remember this team most?
I keep using the word improbable. If in the last 2 days I got a nickel for every time I use that word, I would be wealthy, because it shouldn't have happened. And we should not have gotten by. When you look at that first game of the playoffs against the Smokies, the Barons struck out 18 times. 18 times in the playoff game, left 11 guys on base, and you're thinking we're coming back home and the tire is flat. You're on the metal. Punch them in the face early. And that's what you have to do when you're an underdog. You got to hit somebody early. And we did in game 2. We just kept pouring it on, pouring it on. And as that game was developing, I kept telling myself, their bullpen's taking a beating, and they're not going to have their A guys for game 3. It's a best of 3. And sure enough, we got a good thrust early. And then they had to go to their B bullpen. They're not their best close shutdown guys, and we were able to get that thing done. Then we haven't used Schultz at all. Remember, with his schedule, Schultz hadn't pitched, so we advanced to the final round, and you won't find him in a box score. And I didn't know that he was going game 1 in Montgomery. Thank goodness they allowed that to happen. And guys, he only pitched 3 2/3. He didn't get out of the 4th, but they were very important innings because they were zeros. They were competitive, and he had that. I got to take a look at the box score: 4, 5, 6 guys that he just thoroughly dominated, and that set the pace. You could feel the Biscuits were like, "Oh wow, we're going to struggle." So it was 7-2 that day, and it was total domination. Now you come back, it's a best of 2 at home. I mean, you got to win either today or the storm day, on Wednesday. We used Juan Corella, and I knew he had a good arm. Could he command? Could he live up to the stress and the pressure? And again, did just enough. They had bases loaded at one point, nobody out. We got out of that. A miracle play, ground ball back to him. He grabs it and runs to home plate and gets a force out. I hadn't seen that as well. So when I look back and describe it all, improbable. It should not have happened. But as Herm Edwards once said, that's why you play the game. I have to use that one from a different sport. But, if they just put the talent on the field and said, here are the rosters, we're not going to come out on top. And so where do you guys look? You look at the coaching staff, and that was really an incredible job of coaching amongst Sergio Santos, John Eli, and Nicky Delmonico, and then the other support staff guys as well.
Yeah, and this was very much a storybook ending. It is for any championship team, obviously, but I look at what the season was for you guys in general. And, I was at the Rickwood game at Rickwood Field, and that was a special game to have happen. And then the fact that Willie Mays died that day while Barons were playing on the field, and his death was announced to the entire ballpark. Everybody's tipping their caps. I mean, that was just such a big moment in Birmingham baseball history in general. And then you guys capped that off with a Southern League title. I mean, how big was this year, and how magical was it this year, just beginning to end, really?
In many ways, one of the most majestic, to use your word. And you have to go back, since the Barons won a title in 2013, the year that they opened up, this team has not been competitive. I mean, that's the bottom line. They have not been very, very good. They've not been very good at all. And with the exception of 2021, the year after the pandemic, it has been 50 to 55 wins, 60 wins, team ERA is above 5, just an absolute 10-year disaster. And I think that really helps. There was a team who just won back-to-back, somebody in the Eastern League, I believe it was.
Erie Seawolves.
The Erie Seawolves. So, you get somebody that wins back-to-back, we've won back-to-back decades. So man, that's a hard thing to do. And again, because our big league club is absolutely dying for this talent, they got to get them up like Drew Thorpe. Drew gave us 10 good starts and then up to big leagues. Just scratching the surface with the rest. Baldwin, in Kai Bush, who had pitched really well. Back in the bullpen, Addison Coffey pitched really well for us. Yosimar Cousin, we lost Brian Ramos, our opening day third baseman. We lost so much talent. You shouldn't win when you lose. You shouldn't win a title when you lose that much talent. And again, look at that Montgomery box score. Keep that box score from the last game, their lineup, I should say. And then in 3 to 5 years, look at it. And you're going to go big league, big league, big league, big league, rookie of the year. The next Bobby Witt is maybe their shortstop, Carson Williams. It's loaded. And again, somehow it got through. Somehow, the coaching staff got through. These guys grinded and did not give up on themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the top 4 prospects in the Rays system are on that roster. Montgomery, 5 of the top 10. And Curt, the minor league playoffs are always such an interesting thing because, for front offices and for players and coaching staffs and all that, you get to the end of a 6-month slog and you're kind of exhausted and want to go home. But there is a feeling among players that always feels like that once you know you're going to be in there, you might as well win it all. For your guys to see them, especially in such a tough year in the White Sox organization, this has to have felt like one of the most unique championships really in recent memory for a minor league team, because these guys are close to the big leagues. They are close to a big league team that desperately needs help at that level. And now they're learning how to win. I mean, when you got to watch that celebration, how could you tell it felt for the guys who got to be part of this between the lines?
Because I think everybody that stayed back and did not get promoted had the same attitude of, we're your leftovers, we're your B team, we're your backup. I wasn't good enough to get promoted to Charlotte. I think one of the most important additions was a guy by the name of Nick Podkill. You might never hear his name again in baseball. And he was a pretty big draft choice out of Notre Dame by Toronto, and then finished a couple of years in the Phillies organization. He comes off the streets out of AAA. And in mid-August, for the team that was scuffling, he said, I'm here to do 2 things: teach these kids how to win and then win a championship ring. And I think that the rest of the team just embodied that. They really, really did. That was a great way of putting it. And Nick Podkill might never play minor league baseball again, but he will have his name, he will have a ring, and he will be I'll look back and go, that's what he did. So answering that question is, you had the B unit and everyone's left over, and they all had the same, like, hey man, we're not good enough to go to Charlotte or Chicago. We're gonna prove that we can get together and we can win some rings. Now again, Schultz is a different story. That's a different story altogether. DJ Gladney, who had the game-winning hit with 2 strikes, did not become a Baron until the first week in August. So that meant he spent the entire summer in Winston-Salem, could not crack the Barons lineup.
And to be, at a stage in these guys' careers where so many different roads open up for you in AA. And like you said, I mean, some guys are on the way out. Some guys will start next year in Charlotte. Some guys might be in Chicago next year. They're going to be trade pieces. They're going to be all that. But you do get frozen in this moment in time as league champions. And that's a thing that these guys will carry forward for the rest of their lives. You've been witness to some of this over the course of your career, and each one is different. For this team, I mean, on the special level, I don't want you to have to rank them, but this has got to feel really different for you and for the front office staff, as I don't know how many people would have seen this coming, and now we're all going to get a ring out of this.
April, May, and June, we saw this coming. Okay, but we had arguably one of the top three minor league clubs in all of baseball. You can go to a AAA club, and that Norfolk team out of the gate, they were all the Orioles, they were loaded. But we could have competed because of our pitching. So we April, May, June, we're like, man, this is pretty fun. We had the best record at home in the minor leagues at one point. Everything was glory. And then just before the half and just before the clinching, they started migrating up to AAA. Get to the ballpark, Thorpe is gone, Bush is gone, Ramos had been gone already. Caro was a big loss, So I mean, it's so many guys that were promoted, and whatever was left over. Michael Turner was the starting catcher, not Edgar Caro. Caro became the minor league player of the year for the White Sox, and he's in the big leagues. And Michael Turner's was a backup, like maybe a second string catcher, first baseman type guy, and caught every game of the playoffs. These stories are going to be great. I can't wait till years from now somebody just digs in and finds some of these stories of where are they now and who was he, and they'll all look back and go, yeah, 2024, man, we put it together for 4 days and knock the rest of the Southern League on their socks.
Curt, one of the things that this provides is a little bit of hope for White Sox fans who are dying for it right now. You mentioned a little while ago, some of the congratulations that you've heard from people. What has the reaction been like from White Sox fans, and even from, people in the front office who I'm sure you all have heard from? This is a little bit of an oasis in a very long desert for White Sox fans. And that's very cool because it's an incredibly loyal fan base, one that has seen, a World Series title in the last 20 years, but has gone through some really lean stretches, this year being the leanest among them. If you are a fan of an organization in a really tough spot, there is some hope that comes from minor league teams winning titles. What's that reaction been like?
Two friends of mine from completely different worlds, but are White Sox fans, they said, well, yeah, I'm happy for you. Congratulations. Get them to the big leagues. And then the other one was,
that's kind of what I figured it would be.
Yeah. And then the other one was fix our club, so, and it's not going to be fixed anytime soon, but that was, and rightfully so, that was the reaction when you're on the verge of setting a record you want no part of. And you've got to find, you just said, you got to find an oasis. Can I get a glass of water in this? And that glass of water was the Birmingham Barons.
Well, every championship ends with a celebration. So just curious what it was like in the Barons locker room after the game.
It's the usual.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the usual champagne and cigars. And it just the emotion that was in there was first of all, it was like you had taken a 1,000-pound refrigerator off your back. We didn't want to play a third game. We didn't think we deserved to play a third game. You're looking around at, the leadoff batter, Riku Nishida, didn't come up until September. So I looked at Winston, Kannapolis, Winston, Kannapolis. So you get that off of your chest. And then you're just like, we talked about doing it, and we thought about doing it, and we did. I tell you guys a little story, and it's probably a secret I shouldn't tell, but it's part of this story. After the celebrations and the usual, coaches and the interviews and the champagne and all that, I mean, obviously, even in the minor leagues, it goes on for quite a while. When there was a point during all that, I was personally ready to say my goodbyes to the staff. And the manager's office door and the coach's office door was closed. And they didn't want any players in there, none whatsoever. And that was really unique. Now, they were there, obviously, for the moments and the champagne, the cigars, and all that. But they took a time. They took probably 30 some odd minutes, 40 some odd minutes, They shut the doors, no players. And I poked my head in, and they were talking about the miracle barons, in a sense, of the things that this team did when no one else believed in them, including people at the big league level. They couldn't have believed it. I'm sure, and I'm not going to put names, but I'm sure they were like, whoa, 7 of your 9 guys, whatever it is, that were stars are not even there. And you're using that guy's backup and that guy's backup and that guy's backup. So I thought it was the first time I had seen that. And that's, I'm going to take that one and keep it right here, to see Sergio Santos, John Eli, Nicky Delmonico, and the rest of that coaching staff. We have bench coaches as well and assistants. They were rehashing the fact that, wow, I can't believe that, what an at-bat so-and-so had. We gave him the confidence to do this, and this guy should have been out. And that pitcher was struggling prior to, they poured everything they had into winning this thing. And I want to make this clear before we go off too. Kevin Bowles, the manager of the Biscuits, could not have been a classier person in defeat. And the beautiful email that he wrote to our staff to congratulate us needs to be, it's the way Tampa does things. They really know how to do it. And his dad, John, who had managed the Marlins twice and has had a 40, 50, 60-year career in the game, was in the locker room the whole time too. So it was really unique. So there was also perspective from the other side. And he wrote this beautiful letter to our staff, really appreciating everything that we had done and giving them an opportunity. And it was just a really beautiful, warm, sensitive moment that needs to be told during this, Zoom. And I think it's also, I want the world to know that you still have a couple of good people left in this world. There are a lot of knuckleheads, but there's still a few who get it. And Ben, you've traveled more than any of us in here, and from city to city to city to city, you see that there's still a group left, a core group left that gets the it part of it. This guy just lost a heartbreaking championship when he knows his team was better. And yet he wrote this email that just hit all the cylinders. And my general manager, my boss, Jonathan Nelson, shared it with a few of us. And it was just like, wow, that's pretty cool. So we just got this incredible feeling. I don't think I haven't slept the last 2 days. I haven't really had a nap or anything along those lines. It's just incredible on this high, this emotional high. I thought by now I would be like, and when Ben first contacted me, I'm like, I'll see you in a month or so, but I just can't stop. I'm so happy about it. And then, as I posted on Instagram, one for the thumb. So I got that thumb covered now. 4 + 1, 5.
Beautiful. Well, there's good people everywhere. We try to find them. We try to have them on this podcast, such as broadcaster Curt Bloom, who calls games for the Southern League champion Birmingham Barons, winners of the Southern League. Curt, thanks so much for being with us on the show before the show. Really enjoyed speaking with you and getting all that insight into this Southern League championship winning team.
Well, thank you for having me, for thinking of me, and for all you guys do for our business. It's really, really appreciated more than you know. And again, just thank you for thinking, hey, let's speak with Curt Bloom. Let's hear what he has to say. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of what is probably going to be a really short off season.
Yep, we'll do our best, and you as well.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners. in which all of you out there in Radio Land must identify the legitimate historical ball club or player hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One once welcomed you out to the old ball game. The others never got you anywhere. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A. The Vernon Vacationeers. B. The Traverse City Resorters. C. The Caldwell Sitbackers. You can take a moment and enjoy yourself. You picked B, the Traverse City Resorters, who kicked up their feet in the West Michigan League and Michigan State League in the 1910s. Situated in northwestern Michigan at the base of the Old Mission Peninsula, separating the east and west arms of Grand Traverse Bay, Traverse City was chiefly a spot not for vacationing but for work in the 19th century, with a sawmill and other timber-related interests taking root. But by the aughts, big efforts were underway to draw tourists. There was at least one scandal involving accusations of fraud in an attempt to sell land in a spot then called Outing Beach to entertainment concerns such as motion picture exhibitors. And by 1910, the town was ready to play ball. Emerson W. Dickerson, a well-known sports writer at the time who'd go on to discover the boxer Gene Tunney and serve as president of the Western League, was heavily involved in the founding of the West Michigan League. And he visited Traverse City in April as the circuit was coming together and said, "Traverse City has, in the past, on numerous occasions, by its support of independent professional teams salaried as highly as called for by league ball, shown its ability to support and even make a paying proposition of a team in such an organization as proposed." And so the Resorters came home to Traverse City, finishing in second place and getting a league-leading 150 strikeouts from LaRue Kirby, who'd later, as an outfielder, make the New York Giants and the Federal League's St. Louis Terriers. But the Resorters on the whole were much more laid back than their future Terrier. LaRue Kirby perhaps LaRue'd the day he signed with Traverse City. In 1911, the club got a remarkable performance from Masher Bunny Brief, another soon-to-be big leaguer, but finished fourth in the six-team Michigan State League, which the West Michigan League had expanded to become. Kirby and Brief were both with the club in 12, but Kirby and Brief couldn't curb long odds of a pennant. The Manistee Champs lived up to their moniker that season, and for the Resorters every day, or every season, began to feel the same, as they finished second to Manistee again in 13. In 1914, the Resorters looked homesick, or just flat out sick. Out of 96 games, Traverse City won only 22. The club was truly a collection of last resorters. The franchise quit the league on September 1st, and 8 days later, the league quit all the franchises. The Michigan State League died a natural death, the Newcastle News reported after Manistee became the third club on the circuit to fold. The paper went on to speculate, the league probably will be reorganized next spring. It was not. And that's how summer ended for the Resorters. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these players was a danger until his playing days finished in the minors of yesteryear? A. Shiv Endon. B. Dynamite Dunn. C. Poison Pulse. Want to know the answer? Be careful. Or tune into the next Goes to the Minors. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is going leaf peeping, and I've got to help him see the forest for the trees.
Huge thanks to Curt Bloom from the Birmingham Barons for joining this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, the Southern League champion Birmingham Barons. And of course, our biggest thanks to Josh Jackson for stopping by with this week's episode of Goes to the Minors. And that brings us nearly to the end. But before the end, we didn't get any theme songs. Nobody has submitted a theme song yet for Name That Dude. What's that all about? You ingrates?
They're hard at work. It's a multi-week process.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sam also is Sam's out of the Zoom screen right now. He's just like yelling from points unknown. That was a very fun. It was just like a far away audio element to Sam just, defending our non-punctual music groups. Come on. Get us a theme. Anyway, it's time for Name That Dude.
Sorry. I have a dude.
Ben has a dude.
but we always need to remember to do this. Look into the dude's like more recent history, because sometimes the dudes.
Is it a problematic dude?
Yeah, why do we
We've
keep
featured like a
these...
dude or two that in retrospect were like,
I can get a dude right now that's not problematic.
oh boy.
I
Like
can
we're not
get
going to
one.
be
Let's...
putting Aubrey Huff on here, obviously. But yeah, there have been some times when we've like looked at the dude afterwards and we've been like, oh, we need to look at like the personal life or controversies or whatever on a Wikipedia page.
Look, yeah, and we're not trying to be prudes or scolds.
We're not dude prudes. Name that
but
dude.
Yeah, but at the same time, we sometimes it's just like, yeah. Oh boy, so I haven't backup dude, but now I'm checking him.
Checking to make sure if the backup dude is suitable
Yeah.
for our high standards of conduct for name that dude.
Yeah. Oh man, this is a tough one too.
Well, Sam said he's got a
right,
reserve dude.
All Sam, you got a dude?
I got it. We can do my dude.
Come to the microphone, Sam. Where are you?
I was off screen.
Stand, yeah, so you wouldn't see Ben's.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wouldn't see Ben's dude.
All right. A little raggedy here at the end. This has been a long day.
Been a lengthy episode of the Show Before the Show podcast.
Yeah. We're getting through it. We're bringing it all back together now for a thrilling crescendo of a conclusion of a climax.
Okay.
All right. Officially time for Name That Dude. Sam is the dude knower, and Ben and I are the dude guessers.
I am the dude knower. All right. So this guy was drafted by the Dodgers in the 16th round of the 1975 draft.
Ooh, wow.
From St. Elizabeth High School, and I won't tell you where St. Elizabeth High School is because it'll become increasingly obvious. So he started his career in Bellingham in the Dodger system in the Northwest League. I will give you that he is a pitcher.
Okay.
He had a 5.51 ERA with Bellingham in 1975 as an 18-year-old.
Okay.
Pitched in Danville and Bellingham in 1976. 1977 went to Clinton and Albuquerque.
Dukes. Back then.
Dukes, indeed. The 1977 Albuquerque Dukes. 1978 went to San Antonio and then debuted with the Dodgers in 78 at 21 years old. 79 and 80 pitched for Albuquerque, returned to the Dodgers in 81. Pitched for the Dodgers in 82. Spent 83 with the Dodgers and the Rangers. 84 with the Rangers. 85 with the Rangers and the Philadelphia Phillies. 86 had been traded from the Phillies to Oakland. Yeah, I'm sure you do now. One appearance for Tacoma, who was Oakland's AAA affiliate, and then pitched for Oakland in 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92. 93 was with the Blue Jays, 94 was with the Blue Jays, and then completed his career with the Oakland Athletics in 1995 at 38 years old. We'll make this one a very quick one. Ben, who is
Dave Stewart.
Dave Stewart is correct.
Dave Stewart, former Arizona Diamondbacks general manager Dave Stewart.
Yeah, I knew that before you even went to the A's part. Once it went from Rangers to Phillies, I knew it was Dave Stewart because the first baseball cards I was ever familiar with as a kid were the 86 Topps cards. And Dave Stewart, and I was obsessed with every Phillies player. I would open a pack and be like, how many Phillies did I get? And Dave Stewart, even though he did not play a long time, was with the Phillies, I guess, in 1985, and he had a 1986 Topps card. So he was just always ingrained in my mind as a Philly, and his career up to that point, although unremarkable, was ingrained as a Philly. And then, a few years later, and he's one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And I'm like, that guy should be on the Phillies, just like Ryan Sandberg, just like Julio Franco. And
he only pitched 12 combined games for the Phillies over his parts of 2 seasons.
Yeah, but he had a card along with a catcher named Alan Nicely, who I just feel like has to be the most obscure 1985 Philly to be included in the 1986 top set. But we will not get any more obscure.
I mean, that sounds like that should have been a Marlboro ad or a Camel ad. You would have had smoking nicely. Anywho,
I was
Dave
going to
Stewart-
say, like, we're in a bad era for nicknames. Thankfully, I feel like we've moved beyond the era of like just first initial and then first syllable of last name, like A-Rod and whatever. But Smoke is just like an all-time great baseball nickname. And it's not like a wacky one. It's not like Pee-wee or High Pockets or whatever, but like Smoke is a pretty badass nickname.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And there can only be one now. I mean, Dave Stewart
Yeah.
was like so good. World Series MVP, 3-time World Series champ, 1-time All-Star, 2-time ALCS MVP, Roberto Clemente winner. I mean, like the guy did everything except for get into Cooperstown, basically. And there can only be one Smoke. I chose him. I didn't say where he was drafted out of, like what town he's an Oakland native. As we're recording this on Thursday, it's the final game at the Coliseum. He threw out the first pitch alongside Ricky Henderson, which sounds like it's just a very special moment for all involved. And it's very sad. We're talking about next week's show. We can give a little bit of preview of that. We will have on somebody from Salt Lake to talk about how they are closing one ballpark, but they are opening one in the same area. Oakland will be going to Sacramento next year. And while we're happy for everybody in the Sacramento and specifically West Sacramento area, it's still a sad day that, the last major league game will be played in Oakland, at least for now. So Dave Stewart, very celebrated member of that franchise, very celebrated member of that region and just baseball in general. Wanted to give him a little shine, even if this was maybe the easiest guess that dude we've had so far.
Yeah, you stepped up under pressure. I mean, I was supposed to be the dude bringer, but the dudes I brought didn't hold up.
You're a dude debt now. You have to cash 2 dudes.
Yeah, well, I will do my due diligence and be back next week with a dude who has passed our background checks.
I just want to point out Dave Stewart's numbers in his first 4 full seasons in Oakland when he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. He finished in the top 4 in Cy Young voting in all 4 of these seasons. Pitcher wins, obviously, we're a more enlightened baseball fan base now than we would have been from 1987 through 1990. But he won 20 or more games in all 4 of those seasons. He made 36 or 37 starts in all 4 of those seasons. He pitched 41 complete games over those 4 seasons, including 14 complete games of his 37 starts in 1988. He threw a combined 7 shutouts over that time, was striking out a ton of dudes. He had 205 strikeouts in 1987, which kicked off that season. And obviously, I mean, there was a much different era for strikeouts. You don't really think of like, 205 Ks. What a bellwether season. But it really, like at that time, Dave Stewart was terrifying to opposing hitters. That guy had, and one thing that's interesting, he really did not break out as a pitcher until his age 30 season. That first season in Oakland in 1987, the year after he was traded away from the Phillies, that was his breakout year. He went 20-13 that year with a 3.68 and 37 starts, 8 complete games that year, a 1.259 whip and a 1.13 ERA plus. And kind of interesting that he was sort of a late bloomer in that regard, coming along as a 30-year-old.
Yeah, and in one of those seasons, he was joined atop the rotation by Bob Welch, who won 27 games. That's just one of those obscure stats of the late 80s, early 90s.
Never see that again.
Yeah, Bob Welch.
Yeah, 27 game winner.
27 game winner, Bob Welch.
It used to be that back in our day when Ben and Sam and I were young bucks, we used to have conversations like, will we ever see 30 game winners again? Now it's like there's not even going to be like 15 game winners anymore. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just like the game has shifted and the conversation around stats has shifted, and it's interesting stuff. But Smoke, we tip our collective caps to you as we record this actually right now during the final game at the Oakland Coliseum, the end of an era in Major League Baseball. So that will do it for this week's episode of the show before the show. Huge thanks to Curt Bloom and Josh Jackson, and for Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill and all the rest. My name is Tyler Maughan. Coming up on Saturday night, if you listen to this before then, Jim Callis of MLB Pipeline and I will be on the call for the AAA National Championship game between the Sugar Land Space Cowboys and insert International League team here, as I hold the mug in front of my face like Homer Simpson in that episode with the Broncos-Falcons Super Bowl. That'll do it. We'll catch you on Saturday night from Las Vegas Ballpark on MLB Network, or we'll catch you next week with the next episode of the show before the show. Talk to you then.